Hey everybody, Meteorologist Liz McGiffin here, and today I want to talk to you about water and how it heats up differently than the land around it. So for this experiment, you're obviously going to need some water. I went ahead and filled up about a half a cup or so of water. And if you're like me, you may not have the steadiest hand, have a funnel ready to go so you can pour the water here in a minute. You want to have 2 balloons. Option of a marker ready to go as well. I went ahead and labeled one of my balloons water, and then labeled the other one as land. You need to have 2 small candles ready to go. Also for that, you need something to light those candles here in a minute. And I'd recommend grabbing 2 hangers, and I'll show you what to do with the hangers here in a minute. So first thing I'm gonna have you do, after you've labeled your balloons, water and air, you can start to fill up your water one with that half cup of water. One thing I'd recommend doing as well, you can see this one's a little more stretched out. I went ahead and blew up the balloon a little bit beforehand just to make sure that there were no holes, and also to stretch it out a little bit before we added the water in. So this process you need to be a little careful with. The reason I'm saying about half a cup or so is as soon as the balloon is full, you don't want the water pouring out. About half a cup will be enough to work. Okay, now that we have our water in the balloon, I need you to blow it up the rest of the way. So we don't need to fully inflate the balloons. I just go ahead and give it about 2 nice puffs. There we go. So any size balloon will work just fine, but this one, you know what? I may even take a little bit of the air out of it. There we go. Enough so that you have some air in it. And then take your hanger, and I need you to actually tie your balloon onto the hanger. So this part can be a little tricky, but another reason too, it might be nice to make sure your balloon's nice and stretched out beforehand. There we go. So your balloon should be tied off, so there's not any air escaping, no water escaping either, and it should be able to hold up on its own. So now, I need you to take your balloon, labeled either land or air, and blow it up so it's about the same size. Okay, take some of the air out of this guy. That'll work. And we want to do the same thing. So grab your hanger and tie that air balloon or the land balloon onto the end. There we go. And just like the other one, they should both be able to stand on their own just fine. So we can put those to the side for a second, and now we light our candles. The candles can really be any size. I just recommend having 2 so that we can have our balloons side by side here in a second. So we'll give that a minute to just kind of sit. And the reason I'd recommend tying your balloons to a hanger is because here in a minute we're going to hold them directly over the flames and wait and see what happens. And the hanger is going to be helpful because it creates more space between us and the balloon. So let's hang it over and wait and see what happens. So what's going on here is obviously, oh, there we go. Obviously what was happening here is that the only difference is that we had 2 balloons that literally came from the same package, but we held them over candles to wait and see what happened. So what was going on in here is the one that was labeled air or land represented our surroundings. The one representing water, literally the only difference is that we put some water inside of it. The candles, they represented when they were lit, the sun and how it heats us up during the day. Whether it's an ocean or a swimming pool or a lake, that body of water has exactly the same amount of direct sunlight as, say, the beach or even the concrete that surrounds that pool. So during the day, that direct sunlight starts to heat things up, but at a different pace. So you might notice if you take a family vacation over to the beach, or even if you're just walking over to the swimming pool, that ground or that land, it really starts to heat up your feet. However, when you step into the water, which has had that exact same amount of sunlight, well, it can hang out with the heat from the sun for a lot longer before it sees much of an impact. And the reason for that is that the water that's inside of this balloon or inside the swimming pool, well, it's held together by hydrogen bonds. And thanks to those hydrogen bonds, well, that allows things like the water to see a much slower change in temperature and really allows for us to take a nice refreshing dip in the summertime.